Hey y'all, Tom, ND3N here, and thanks for dropping in for a Ham Shack chat about some alternative services to amateur radio. Specifically, I'll be looking at an overview of the Family Radio Service, or FRS, the General Mobile Radio Service, or GMRS, and the Citizens Band Radio Service, or CB. All of these are regulated by the FCC under Part 95, while amateur radio, or ham, is regulated under Part 97. I'll present the FCC definition of each service type, give an outline of how each one works, what your license requirements are, and what your operating limits are. Then I'll do the same for ham radio. And at the conclusion of this video, I'll answer the question, which of these is best?
What is the best color? White.
The Family Radio Service, or FRS, is a private, two-way, very short distance, frequency modulation, voice and data communication service for facilitating family and group activities. The most common use for FRS channels is short distance, two-way voice communications using small handheld radios. The FRS is channelized into 22 different channels in the 462 to 467 megahertz range. Here is a chart of channel info. Note that channels 8 through 14 are limited to a half watt of output power, and the other channels are limited to 2 watts of output power. Each channel has the option to apply privacy codes to allow more secure conversations within your group. The usual range of an FRS device on channels 8 through 14 is less than a half a mile. But longer range communications can be achieved on channels 1 through 7 and 15, 22 with optimal conditions. Note that all these frequencies are shared with the GRMS service. And more about that later. An individual license is not required to operate an FRS radio, provided you comply with the rules. By the way, the FCC refers to this as licensed by rules. You may operate an FRS radio station regardless of your age and for personal or business, unless you are the representative of a foreign government. You can operate an FRS transmitter at any place where the FCC regulates radio communications, subject to certain limitations. FRS transmitters may not be modified and must be certified by the FCC. None of the FRS channels are assigned for the exclusive use of any user. You must cooperate in the selection and use of the channels in order to make the most effective use of them and to reduce the possibility of interference.
The toy manufacturers are going to like that.
Some manufacturers received approval to market radios that were certified under both FRS and GRMS, which allowed users to use one device to operate on both services. The FRS, of course, does not require a license, but GRMS requires an FCC license. In 2017, the FCC changed its rules to stop equipment authorization of FRS dual service radios, and it changed the rules for both FRS and GMRS such that existing radios would be reclassified as one or the other. To remove any confusion as to whether a license was needed for legal operation. If you have a radio that was originally sold as a dual service FRS GMRS radio and it is limited to the channels and power limits provided as we showed previously, then that device can be operated as an FRS device without a licensing requirement. However, if the device exceeds the limits shown, then it is a GMRS radio and an individual FCC license is needed to operate the device. The General Mobile Radio Service, GMRS, is a licensed radio service using FM modulation on 30 preset channels, primarily for voice communications, but also short data messaging, including text messaging and GPS location. It is a close cousin to the family radio service and shares all of its frequencies with FRS. We'll talk about those frequencies that aren't shared in a moment. The GMRS is licensed to an individual for short distance, two-way communications to facilitate the activities of licensees and their immediate family members. Each licensee manages a system consisting of one or more stations. Rules for GMRS limit eligibility for new GMRS system licenses to individuals in order to make the service available to personal users. A GMRS licensee may use a combination of portable, mobile, fixed, and repeater stations. The use of some channels is restricted to certain types of stations, and certain channels are reserved for voice-only operations, while other channels allow voice and data operations. You can expect a communication range of 1 to 25 miles, again, depending on optimal operating conditions. 30 GMRS channels as shown in this chart. Channel 1 through 7 share frequencies with channel 1 through 7 of FRS, except GRMS allows a maximum of 5 watts instead of the 2 watts allowed with FRS. Channel 8 through 14 share both frequency and the power limit of a half a watt with the family radio service. Channels 15 through 22 are allowed 50 watts output as opposed to the shared FMS channels limit of 2 watts. The remaining GRMS channels are unique to this service and service repeater input frequencies with an output power limit of 50 watts. They are labeled channels 15 RP through 22 RP. The output of the frequency of the repeater will be 5 megahertz below the repeater frequency, which aligns with channels 15 through 22.
Do you need a license?
The license is required to operate GMRS systems, and licenses are issued for a 10-year term and can be renewed between 90 days prior to the expiration date and up to the actual expiration date of the license. After a license expires, an individual must request a new GMRS license. You may apply for a GMRS license if you are 18 years or older, not a representative of a foreign government. If you receive a license, any family member, regardless of age, can operate GMRS stations and units within the licensed system. GMRS licensees are responsible for ensuring that their GMRS stations operate within the transmitter output power of the mobile, repeater, and base stations not exceeding 50 watts, fixed stations not exceeding 15 watts, and handheld stations not exceeding 5 watts. None of the GMRS channels are assigned for the exclusive use of any system. You must cooperate in the selection and use of the channels in order to make the most effective use of them and to reduce the possibility of interference. You cannot directly interconnect a GMRS radio with any telephone network or any other network for the purposes of carrying GMRS communications, but these networks can be used for remote control of a repeater.
Oh, 10-4!
The Citizens Band Radio Service, CB, is a private, two-way, short-distance voice communication service for use of the general public. Historically, CB radio has used amplitude modulation, or AM. Recently, the FCC has allowed the use of frequency modulation, FM. And there are several manufacturers who are producing radios that will do this for you. The CB service provides for short-distance communications by individuals and businesses. Over the years, changes have occurred to the service, such as adding additional channels. However, the purpose of the service has remained the same. CB radio is channelized into 40 separate channels as shown in this chart. Channel 9 is reserved for emergency comms or traveler assistance. CB radios may not use more than 4 watts of power regardless of transmit mode, AM or FM. An individual license is not required to operate a CB station, and the FCC does not renew formally issued CB radio service licenses. Anyone, regardless of age, can operate a CB station except a foreign government, a representative of a foreign government, a federal government agency, or someone who has received an FCC cease and desist order that is still in effect. You may not attach a linear amplifier, or any other type of power amplifier to your CB transmitter. You may use an on-the-air pseudonym. That's your handle. You must at all times and on all channels give priority to emergency communications. None of the CB channels are assigned for the exclusive use of any station. You must cooperate in the selection and use of the channels in order to make the most efficient use of them and to reduce the possibility of interference. If you are using your CB station to transmit a message, you cannot talk with another station for more than 5 minutes continuously, and then you must wait at least 1 minute before starting another communication. You may not use a radio not type certified for use in the Citizens Band radio service. For example, using a ham radio base station to tune into these frequencies, that's a no-no. No. The amateur and amateur satellite services are for qualified persons of any age who are interested in radio technique solely with a personal aim and without pecuniary interest. No business activities. These services present an opportunity for self-training, intercommunication, and technical investigation. There are 29 small frequency bands throughout the spectrum and are allocated to this service. Some 1,300 digital, analog, pulse, and spread spectrum emission types may be transmitted. Millions of amateur operators in all areas of the world will communicate with each other directly or through ad hoc relay systems and amateur satellites. They exchange messages by voice, teleprinting, telegraphy, facsimile, and television. In areas where the FCC regulates the service, an amateur operator must have an FCC license. All frequencies are shared. No frequency is assigned for the exclusive use of any amateur station. Station control operators cooperate in selecting the transmitting frequencies to make the most effective use of those frequencies. They design, construct, modify, and repair their stations. The FCC Equipment Authorization Program does not generally apply to amateur station transmitters. Most new amateur operators start at the technician class that gives you full privileges in the VHF and UHF bands and limited privileges in the HF bands. They may advance to the general class or amateur extra class, which adds additional HF privileges.
Time to go.
And that's a quick overview of the family radio service, the general mobile radio service, and the Citizens Band radio service, and a quickie on amateur radio. I told you at the beginning of this video that I would tell you which service is absolutely the best. Now, because I'm a ham and my videos are very ham-centric, I'm betting that you think I'd tell you that amateur radio is the best.
But that's not my answer.
The best radio service is the one that fits your needs the best. If you have a family and are taking a trip to a theme park, and you don't want to spend too much money, but want the ability to keep in touch with everybody at the same time, then FRS might be your best fit. If you're exploring a national park, or maybe you're supporting a community activity that's spread out, a bike race or a marathon or something like that, then maybe GRMS would be a better fit. Maybe you belong to a group that enjoys road trips. I used to belong to a motorcycle group that did that. And CB really helped us. Maybe you want to talk around the world using a digital voice mode on a handheld radio, or talk to the space shuttle crew when they pass overhead. Then ham might be the answer for you. In short, the best radio service is the one that's best for you, and it's your decision. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a like.
Please like me. Please.
By popping that thumbs up icon. If you have any comments or questions,
Comments?
please put them down in the comment section. And please take a moment and share
Sharing is good.
this video with your friends who might find it useful. 73 until the next Hey Y'all. Always at your service. I'm Tom, ND3N, and I am out.